My name is Tawana Lawler. I'm a poet, playwright, screenwriter, gospel songwriter, but the most important thing, I'm an AIDS survivor. Well, I was born, I had mother and father in a two-parent home. I'm the only girl out of four. I always wanted to do things like, I want to do movies. I'm at 10 years, 11 years old. Not knowing now I write movies, but I was like, I want to do home movies. That's what I wanted to do, but my dad got me to, he didn't understand what I was saying. So he gave me the reel with the tape on it, that old type. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? And he got the big screen and everything. And he said, I said, I don't know how to use that. That's not what I asked for. I wanted to make home movies. He got me a sewing machine too, because I was making clothes and everything at 10 and 11 years old. And they were good parents, until things happened. The cheating and all that stuff. And then they separated. And I think once they separated, then he ended up taking his life when I was 12 years old. When he took his life, it's like a part of me went right with him. His family kept telling her to take us to a grief therapy because we had a good relationship with our father. Our relationship was really good. Like, he took us to see the Globetrotters. He would take us to movie theaters and out of town on family trips. So we did family things. So when that happened, it totally just destroyed us. We didn't know that he was depressed. I didn't know. I thought he got laid off his job, but found out he got fired from the job, and he took his life and had a lot of secrets. I'm writing a book, and that's when I started finding out things. The Lord started speaking to me about what he had really done. I just started acting out because my mother had a living boyfriend. I didn't like him, so it just felt like my world was just over. As far as like the creativity, that went out the window. And then it was boyfriends and having babies young and all that stuff, and that's what caused that, because of what he did, and because we told him we wanted to come back, because my mother moved that guy in, and I didn't know the guy. And I was 12 years old, but built like an 18, 19-year-old. So grown men was trying to talk to me, so I know he would have tried something. How you gonna trust somebody with your daughter? And I'm almost a teenager, and you gonna trust this man? I never met the man before, didn't know his name or anything. My brother said it was her boyfriend. And I said, well, I'm going back home. Because she said if we wanted to go back home, we could. But we went and told him. He was happy. But he thought that I was going to tell her that same day. But when she got off from work, she worked second shift. So when she got off, we would be in the bed asleep. And so I wanted to wait till the weekend, but he couldn't wait. And now I'm in a better place. I'm not like mourning. It's just other stuff started happening to me. And I know now it was like meeting the wrong guys, getting in the wrong relationships. And I know it was because not having that father figure in my life, because I never had a father figure. I got married at a young age. I was 16. I thought it was the right thing to do because I had my daughter. So I was thinking it was the right thing to do. My ex-mother-in-law really wanted it so bad, so she went behind our back and had my mother sign the papers. I would have said no, though. I just didn't want to go back home to my mother because of that living boyfriend. I didn't trust him. He was trying to get in my room at night while she was at work. So I didn't trust him, and especially around my daughters. That's why I didn't want to move back there, so I ended up getting in. I left my ex-husband because he was like locking me in the house and taking the telephones with him. He would wrap the phone up. I sit and watch him do it. Wrap the phone, take the cord off the wall, wrap the phone up, and take it with him. He would rig up the blinds so I wouldn't look at the window. He made me drop out of high school because he was so jealous and so controlling, and I wasn't that type of girl. I wasn't raised like he was raised. My mother and father, they had money. They both of them worked. So I didn't know about food stamps, projects, but I learned. But I didn't know anything about that because I wasn't raised around that stuff. The second boyfriend, after I left my ex-husband, they kidnapped my kids. They kidnapped my kids. They were supposed to keep my kids because I ended up getting pregnant by this man. That's my third daughter who had 5 babies. I'm begging her, please don't have no more. She had 5. Guess who had to raise them? I did. Grandma. I had to raise all 5 of them while she's out doing whatever. It was in the end of 1999. I had surgery, and I was crying out to Jesus. I was like, Jesus, please take this pain away, because, I was released from the hospital, but that after pain is the worst pain ever, and I was still in pain. And I was like, please take this pain away. I know I'm a heathen. That's what I said. I said, I know I'm a heathen. I go to church. I play church. Because I've been sexually assaulted. I've been in this domestic violence. My father took his life. All this stuff I had been through, compiled together, it was like messed with me mentally. So I started drinking a lot, and I started drinking because I was sexually assaulted when I was 21 by a guy I didn't even know. And that's why I've been telling my daughters I didn't know the guy, so that even hurts worse because I couldn't even point him out in the lineup. Well, I probably could point him out, but I didn't know his name. I used to see him in the neighborhood, but I never spoke to him or anything. I didn't know he was liking me, but I wasn't attracted to him. But I woke up and he was raping me, being sick and tired, and that's what it was. I was tired of drinking, I was tired of going out, and I just told the Lord, I said, I know I'm a heathen, I got some nerves asking you to take this pain away. And then he whispered in my ear and said, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be all right. Once he said that, I got up, the pain went away. And I got up and walked to my computer and started writing poems. And that was in 1999. I've been writing poems ever since. When I heard his voice, everything about me changed. everything, the desire to drink. I became celibate. I used to smoke cigarettes. I stopped smoking because all that stuff I started at 21, going to clubs and all that because I didn't do any of that. At first, I was going to college and everything, but it was still like the crazy relationship I was in. The second one, that's the one that was on. And he sold my car for. He sold my full amount of color TV for, and he used to fight me, and probably because he wanted to get high. And I walked in the room. This is how I knew he was on, and I didn't know people shot up. I didn't know about the streets. I didn't know about the projects. I didn't know it because we didn't live in that. We didn't get food stamps. My parents worked. I wasn't used to that type of lifestyle, so I didn't know people live like that. I walked in the room one day. Him and his cousin was in the room. Both of them had needles in their arm. I didn't know. I thought they were shooting up medicine. And he called me the B word and said, "Get out." He had never told me he would never fight me like my ex-husband did. He said, "I would never do that." And yes, he did. And then I was a DJ. And I came home one day, and all my albums, you had to walk up these stairs. The whole stairs was filled with pieces of albums where he done broke them all up. Well, I met this man online. I had written my first book, and I was promoting it on some social media. He reached out to me and said, "I see you did this book and stuff," and he started talking to me about God. We started talking. We started conversing like every single day, giving each other our telephone numbers, and he would call me on my lunch break at work, telling me. And then after months, he would tell me he done fell in love with me. So he was a manipulator. He was like really grooming me. I was naive, and I was celibate. Had been celibate, but then almost 2 years. But I didn't tell him, and I didn't tell him I had surgery either. And he didn't know that I was tested twice. And I didn't have sex anymore after him. And it makes sense because he disappeared after. He lived in South Carolina. I lived in Louisville, Kentucky. And after like 9 months, he wanted us to meet face to face, and I should have told him to come to Louisville so my kids could meet him and do it the right way. But I wanted to leave town. He was okay. Like we met, and he was okay. He took me to like a jazz restaurant and stuff, and took me to the zoo. We went to the zoo, so we had a good time. We go out to eat, and that Sunday he was like, "I love you, and I want to marry you." And I'm saying to myself, "If you want to marry me, you would have came with a ring." He kept begging me for sex, and I kept saying no. And I kept telling him no. And he was like, "I don't know when we gonna see each other." And I went ahead. I said, "Do you have to put on a condom?" He acted like he's putting on a condom. But I just really didn't when he paid him no attention because when he got done, he was tearing up a paper and everything. But when he got done, I didn't pay him no attention because I just didn't want to do it. And then, I'm a Christian. So, and I changed my life. And then here you come and trying to just mess up everything. But I wasn't feeling well. And I never knew why I wasn't feeling well. And one day I was driving, and that's when I knew something was wrong. Veered off the road, and I got dizzy. And then I went to the doctor. They said it was kidney disease, and found out it wasn't kidney disease. So they was like, "We don't know what it is." So I went to this lady doctor, and she said, "Well, your symptoms are like HIV." And I was like, "Man, I'm not knowing what the symptoms are." So I was like, "No, ain't no way I can have HIV because I didn't know it could stay in your body up to 10 years. But me, of course, I'm going to be the one who stays up in their body 10 years. And I had no clue that I had it. So, and thank God I wasn't sleeping around anything. I was celibate. She asked me, she said, "Can I test you for HIV?" And I said, "Sure, I know it's going to come back negative." Because I was sure of myself I didn't have that. And I had forgot all about that guy. I forgot all about him. He was in the past. She came out and she said, "You tested positive." And I was shocked. And I was saying, "How the heck did I get this?" And, everything was going through my mind. And I was like, "No, I ain't got this. I'm going to get a second diagnosis." And knowing she was telling the truth that I had it. Because I had the symptoms. I looked it up. I did have the symptoms. I had the rash on my foot. My throat was hurting like for 3 weeks. I got addicted to cough drop. Fingers, I would wake up and they'd be bent back and stuff like it stuck. That stomach pain was the worst pain I ever had. It was worse than labor pains. It hurt so bad like I couldn't walk. And HIV attacks like organs and stuff. I didn't take my medicine. My daughters kept saying, "Take your medicine, take your medicine." I said, "Okay," but I wouldn't take it because I was like, if I'm going to go, then I'm going to go. Not realizing that I take this medicine, it's going to keep me alive. And I knew that, but I didn't care. I was having dreams about heaven, and my aunt was there. And she told me, she said, "You need to go." My nickname is Niecy. And she said, "Niecy, you need to go back." And I kept shaking my head. No, she said, "You got to go back because you got a lot of stuff to do on earth for the Lord." And she wasn't the second person. Maya Angelou told me that in a dream, too. I had a dream about her as well. So I had these dreams about them when I was sick, and Jesus was talking to me all the time. He would tell me, "You're not going to die." He would tell me that. But, I was depressed. I didn't care. But what made me change my thoughts on it, because my daughter came in my room crying. And this is 3 years later now. This is in 2013 because I found out in 2010 that was HIV positive. 2013 is when I found out elevated to AIDS. We went to the doctor, and all I remember is my daughter told me to go upstairs and put on my pajamas. She said when I went upstairs, she had heard a loud thump. And she came running upstairs and she said I was convulsing and said foam was coming out of my mouth and said I was just trembling and shaking and she panicked. But my youngest daughter knew what to do. Said she lift my head up and all that and told my daughter to call 911, get an ambulance come because the disease went straight to my brain. So, and that's what they said. It didn't go to no other organ, went to my brain because it was meant to take me out and I didn't pass. That's when my daughter came in there crying and she said, Mama, the doctor just told me that you got 2 weeks to live. And I was like, what? And then she said, yeah. And she said, they said that you're going to probably pass in your sleep. And I was wondering why they would come in there checking on me all the time, because they would come in there and check because I had dementia. I was doing this sundowning. It was hard, and I was always like thinking that I'm seeing stuff like somebody's coming in the house stealing furniture, and I was hallucinating a lot and couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair, so I was really, really bad out. I ended up taking the medicine. It was like a cocktail of medicine. I hated taking it, but my daughters, they had to sit there and watch me take it to make sure I was going to take it. But after she came in there crying, it made me look at things a whole lot different about life and how much I do love my life, and I love my grandkids and my daughters. I know how when my father took his life, how I felt. She was happy when I wanted to go to therapy because I knew I needed it. I know I needed 100+%. And the Lord spoke to me and said, you need to forgive yourself. You forgave him, you need to forgive yourself. Because I was mad at myself too. Like, why did you make this stupid mistake? The first thing I talked about was civil rights when I moved here. My daughter said that. She said, all you talked about was Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, you talking about John Lewis. And, I was talking about everybody. I was like, oh, John Lewis, Representative John Lewis. All he was looking for was how he used to say it, not bad trouble, good trouble. He used to say, I'm looking for good trouble. And then she said, Dad, you know all that. And then I started learning about politics and getting into politics and stuff. And that's what I want to do. I want to volunteer. When I move back to Louisville, which is my plan, I want to volunteer. I want to be an HIV advocate. So I want to do that. That's where I can really help people and I share my story. Because I do, like I said, I speak at conferences and stuff and in churches, and I see how these people be smiling and some of them be crying when they hear my story, but they always come up to me and my daughters to say thank you, because if I made it after all this, they can make it, because I was nearly gone. I was almost a goner. I'm undetectable now. I couldn't wait to get home to tell my other daughters. I was so happy because I was out of that she gonna die. I was out of that. It was over. It was over. And then I was just ready to live. I was ready to live life. I was able to walk. So that's when I became a motivational speaker. I just love it. And I can't wait to get back to Louisville so I can start again, because it does help people. And I just love it. And I just love helping people. And I felt good about that. And I'm not in a position to do something for free, but the Lord put that on my heart to do that. And I did it for free.